Parliament returned today with fireworks, and what unfolded was nothing short of a political beatdown. Prime Minister Mark Carney didn't just spar with Pierre Poilievre. He exposed a weakness at the very heart of Poilievre's strategy. The Conservative leader entered question period with his usual arsenal: sharp one-liners, quick accusations, and sound bites crafted for social media clips. But what followed was far from a routine exchange. It was a thrashing.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
How big is the deficit that the Prime Minister is running?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward with the Minister of Finance to releasing the budget on the 4th of November. That budget will contain the biggest investment in this country's future in a generation. Building homes, building new port infrastructure, new trade corridors, new energy infrastructure, building the strongest economy in the G7.
Well done.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Normalement.
Usually, the government presents a deficit at the beginning of the fiscal year. Now, 6 months have passed, and we still don't know how big the deficit is. This creates uncertainty, drives away investment, and has cost 86,000 jobs. For the first time in the country's history, the Prime Minister has failed to disclose the deficit 6 months into the fiscal year. He calls himself a budget expert. So does he actually know how big his deficit is? Yes or no, the Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to thank him for the compliment. Yes, I'm a fiscal budget expert, and yes, I do know that. Thank you. I also know the current economic context in Canada very well. What's driving uncertainty is not a lack of information on the deficit. It's the trade war. We must focus on what we can control, and that means investing in our future.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, surely, if he was such an expert, he would know the size of his own deficit. It's now halfway through the fiscal year. 6 months have gone by, and he has announced $40 billion of additional spending. Deficits drive up inflation, grocery prices, housing costs, and interest rates. They drive out investment from our country and uncertainty that destabilizes our economy. That's why every other Prime Minister in Canadian history has announced the deficit at the beginning of the fiscal year. We're 6 months in. Does he even know the size of his own deficit?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know many things. And one of the things I know, the member opposite, the Leader of the Opposition, just mentioned interest rates. One thing I know is that Canadian interest rates are much lower than American interest rates. They're lower because this country's fiscal situation is strong, because this government has a plan to grow this economy, and we will keep doing it. We'll keep doing it.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, the collapsing economy is bringing down interest rates, but the financial expert doesn't even know what his own deficit is. But another financial expert spoke yesterday. The parliamentary budget officer said the deficit will absolutely be higher as a part because of additional spending. He said he doesn't know what the government's fiscal anchors are because they do not exist. He says, the labor market sucks and wages are not going up. These are quotes. Is this why Liberal members on the committee who heard those truth bombs threatened that the Prime Minister would fire the parliamentary budget officer after 166 days?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I don't recognize that, Mr. Speaker. I don't recognize that characterization. I just appointed the parliamentary budget officer, and this government does have fiscal anchors. This government has fiscal anchors. We are going to spend less so the country can invest more. We are going to balance the operational budget in 3 years. We are going to have a declining level of debt, and we're going to do all of that because we're building the strongest economy in the G7 for Canadian families.
The honourable leader of the opposition.
Speaker, the collapsing economy is driving down interest rates, yet the so-called financial expert doesn't even know the size of his own deficit. But another financial expert spoke yesterday, the parliamentary budget officer. He stated clearly that the deficit will absolutely be higher, in part because of additional spending. He also said he doesn't know what the government's fiscal anchors are, because they don't exist. And, in his words, asterisk, the labor market sucks and wages are not going up. These are direct quotes. So, is this why liberal members on the committee, after hearing those truth bombs, threatened that the Prime Minister would fire the parliamentary budget officer after 166 days?
And the Prime Minister made the appointment of the parliamentary budget officer temporary, so that he could hold a sword over his head and threaten him if he speaks the truth about the financial mess the Prime Minister has made. That's what you remember? You know, to a government that doesn't know how to count, there is nothing more terrifying than a man armed with a calculator. And this Prime Minister wants to silence the parliamentary budget officer from telling the truth about the fiscal mess that he has created under his watch. So will he, Mr. Speaker, legalize math, make the parliamentary budget officer's position permanent, and tell us how big the deficit is?
The right honourable Prime.
And the Prime Minister made the parliamentary budget officer's appointment temporary, so he could hold a sword over his head and threaten him.
Mr. Speaker.
With respect to consultations on making the parliamentary budget officer's position permanent, I look forward to speaking to the Leader of the Opposition, le chef de bloc,
The Leader of the Bloc Québécois.
of other parties in Parliament, so we have a consensus on that appointment. I welcome that opportunity. We will do it at this. Yes, because this is the new spirit, Mr. Speaker, the new spirit of collaboration that has been put forward by the Minister.
Carney hit back with facts, figures, and a confidence that shook the opposition benches. Every time Poilievre tried to land a punch, Carney countered with policy and vision. The more Poilievre repeated his slogans, the more frustrated he became, and the contrast couldn't have been clearer. Then came the moment that turned a heated debate into a political earthquake. Carney declared that Canada's economy is now stronger than the United States, pointing to lower interest rates as proof. It wasn't just a jab at Poilievre. It was a shot across the border, a message to Washington, and a bold claim that Canada, under his leadership, is charting its own course. That single statement left the chamber buzzing, the opposition reeling, and Poilievre visibly rattled what was supposed to be his platform to attack the government. Instead became the stage where Carney redefined Canada's economic narrative and showed Canadians the difference between empty rhetoric and real leadership. What we saw today was more than a fiery exchange. Pierre Poilievre came into question period armed with the same lines he's repeated for months: doom, slogans, and accusations. But when pressed for substance, there was nothing new. Carney, by contrast, didn't just defend his record. He laid out a vision. He pointed to Canada's fiscal anchors, the largest investment budget in generations, and most importantly, an economy that is outperforming expectations by highlighting Canada's lower interest rates compared to the United States. Carney made a bold claim. His leadership is delivering more stability than Donald Trump's America. That one statement will ripple far beyond today's session. For Canadians, it was a reminder that Carney is positioning the country not as a follower of U.S. policy, but as a competitor with a stronger foundation and a clearer path forward. For Poilievre, today was another reminder that quick sound bites might light up social media, but they cannot compete with a leader armed with both facts and vision. If you want more sharp analysis of these defining moments in Canadian politics, make sure to subscribe to Canada Today. Here, we bring you the deeper story behind the headlines. And before we go, a huge thank you to all of you. We just passed 25,000 subscribers. Your support means the world, and it's what keeps us going every single day.